listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So I did this thing today that felt so weird. It was like one of those bad dreams where you're naked or you forgot to write an exam or something. And I don't know if this has happened to anyone here, but I forgot my wallet at home.
Ugh, I have done that and I hate it.
And I only realized it when I went to go pay for something. And it was I felt so stupid. And then all day I felt like I was missing an appendage or something.
That does feel weird. And when that happened to me recently, I had to panic and then realized I could pay for it with my phone, which I never normally use. Yeah. And so, but now I've gotten more used to using my phone, like Apple Pay or whatever, to pay for things.
That was going to be my pro tip too.
Yeah.
It makes your life a lot easier if you forget that stuff.
It does make it so much easier. And I had resisted for a long time. I refused to put any banking information on my phone. Not that I don't know why. I just resisted it for a long time. And then I did that thing where I left my wallet at home and I was screwed. And the whole time I was just like, God, if I just at least had my credit card on my phone, everything would be fine. This wouldn't be an imposition. Everything would be okay. And then the only reason I ended up giving into it is when we traveled a couple months ago and we got to London, you can pay with your credit card to use the transit systems instead of having to I can get you can get a card here and not have to use your credit card, but there it's just all hooked up through your credit card now and your Apple Pay. So I just panic relented because we were getting the tube into the city from the airport. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to get on otherwise. And now I use it all the time.
So that would be my second question I was going to ask. If you had to forget one, either your wallet or your phone, what would it be?
Well, now I'd rather forget my wallet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Well, you've got this backup plan that I wasn't aware of. So
yeah, the three of us kept it secret from you for so
well,
long.
Apparently I haven't moved into the future yet.
It really creeps me out when Carlos pays for stuff with his watch. I'm like, what is I know this whole conversation is making me sound extremely old, I guess, but that's fine. But when he pays for stuff with his watch, I still am just thinking about I don't know, occasionally glimpsing a Star Trek show when I was a child and just thinking, oh wow, this is the future, I guess. Well,
to be fair, I am looking forward to the pay with retinal scan. So then I won't have to worry about absolutely anything. I can forget my phone. I can forget my wallet. I can forget everything. I'll just scan my eye and we're in.
Sounds horrifying. I know it's coming, but it still sounds horrifying.
Oh my God, that's so horrifying. And I feel like it's coming. I feel like maybe you're joking, but maybe also you're not. That's gonna be a thing. For sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, they already do that when you want to cross the border and, you're on a visa or something. You're already getting your retina scanned.
Are you really? I didn't know this.
No, not if you're just going as a tourist and you have your passport and stuff, but if you're going on a visa and you're going for longer or whatever, then you get a more complicated process where they identify you with retinal scans.
I mean, in the States, they still make you look to the camera. They do. I don't know what they do, but they make you look in the camera and they do something. And I know my dad always comes back from Thailand telling all these crazy stories about the level of tech over there. And I think there was something about retinal scan. I try to block it out because it sounds terrifying. But countries other than ours are doing way more. You just know it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I knew that facial recognition has been happening for a long time. And it's not that but I just kind of forget. And it has been interesting to think about, like, especially in relationship to my phone, how I was very upset when they wanted me to get into my phone with my thumbprint. And then the next iteration was they wanted to, like, scan my face. And now, because I still wear masks when I'm out in public, I often have to, like, punch in my code. But, like, I'm like, how many different faces could I give you in order to make this face scan work? Why won't it work with a mask? Like, it's supposed to. And now I'm just like, oh, God, what could I do to, like, make it even faster? And I guess just, like, breathe into it, maybe. Like, eventually it'll have, like, a small tube that will just, like, you just... And
you know what bugs me too is that
I don't know. It's weird.
It's always in James Bond movies, right? Like you watch a James Bond movie and they've always got some kind of, new development in technology or something. And all anyone ever asked for from the future was a jetpack. Was it so hard?
I always was interested in the Jetsons about like how they made meals into like one little tablet that you could take, like, and it would be like a whole Christmas dinner or whatever. I always thought that would be like an amazing innovation.
Well, that was like in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? Violet Beauregard, when she had the gum, the chewing gum that felt like a whole meal, wasn't it?
Yeah. She could taste everything, and that's when she got to the blueberry pie after.
Right, and then she had to go and...
Yeah, it just seemed to me like it would save like so much effort in like cooking something.
Priorities are they're too far off.
Well, and that's in Major Tom, right? David Bowie, take your protein pill and whatever.
Yeah.
So all this stuff has been coming, but I'm not exactly too thrilled.
I've never been interested in freeze-dried food, though. Like, ever since someone tried to convince me that Dippin' Dots were fun. And then I tasted it, and I was like, this is disgusting. Like, who likes Dippin' Dots?
What are Dippin' Dots?
The, like, freeze-dried ice cream.
They're like tiny little, tiny balls of ice cream. They were really weird.
They're disgusting.
Yeah, I didn't understand the purpose at all.
No, and people were like, it's astronaut ice cream. I'm like, it's honestly frozen rat pellets. It's disgusting. Like, they're unicorn colored, but like they're gross.
There's a place in East Van though that makes like in Chinatown that they make not rat pellets, but like they're like candy bars, kind of like freeze dried ice cream. Like they're more substantial, and they're actually pretty good. Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, really?
What it's called? Yeah.
I would eat that. Oh, my jetpack.
Oh yeah, it's like Say Hello. That's what it's called. It's Say Hello. It's like there's a dedicated ice cream store in Chinatown, and they sell like their little kind of candy bar sized freeze dried ice cream around town. It's very good.
Oh, yum.
Yeah.
Maybe in like a fully fashioned form it would be fine, but the little pellets I just think are an insult.
Does it really taste like ice cream, or what does it taste like?
No, it tastes like chemicals.
Oh, okay.
The Say Hello ones taste like ice cream.
That's good.
Yeah. My nephews love it. The kids go crazy over it. Like
the kids go crazy.
Yeah.
They say, what's that? Ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream, but freeze dried. So that's all.
I like that. That's perfect.
I like it too. I mean, also the thing that you definitely could do if you had like a freeze dried sort of like ice cream and then you like fashioned it into a small knife, that could be a stabby weapon. Like if you think about the multi-purposes of freeze-dried like dairy products or non-dairy, you can have vegan ones. And just like imagine, because then it's like that like really dumb idea that if like the ultimate murder weapon would be like an icicle, and then you could stab someone with it and then it would dissolve and like no one would get you, like you've heard that, right?
Mm-mm.
No.
Okay, thank God.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But thanks for sharing that. Now I know.
I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
I'm Liv Albert.
Yay! And you're listening to Pop This.
Welcome back.
We're so excited to have Liv Albert back with us.
I mean, it's Scream. How could I not?
Honestly, I love how much you love Scream. I loved discovering like just the layers of your Scream love last time when you joined us for Scream 5. We said back then, like, let's do Scream 6. And then you were kind enough to like be like, okay, yeah, I will come back. Thank you.
Well, I was so glad that Liv came on the first time because I had never seen any movies in the Scream franchise, and just like seeing it, Scream 5, like starting with that movie was rather shocking because it's just so.
So you didn't have to watch
everything.
when we watched the original because you were not co-hosting then.
No. So I escaped
Because
then,
I've
best
I've
one.
seen
But
one.
the original's so good.
I've seen 1 and 5 and 6 now.
Lisa, hold on. You've never seen 2, 3, 4?
No.
Oh my God. Okay, AG, did you ever go back and watch 1 at this point?
not yet.
Wow. Okay.
No, I'm starting with
1 is
5.
so good.
Then I went to 6.
Yeah, same.
I understand that the creative low points are like 2 and 3 and 4. So
Absolutely not. Absolutely, they go in progressive order of like best to just the latest one.
okay.
There is no
they're
worst.
they're
to
all
be
very
clear.
they're all variations on best.
Yeah.
I
They just
see, I
keep
see.
getting
Okay.
like different. The first one is best. 2 is great. 2 has Greek mythology references in a way that
Yeah.
makes my soul very happy. 3 is absurd and super entertaining in its own very special and weird way. And then,
Yeah.
and then it got modern and it's sort of different, but still great. I was gonna stop.
I agree with that assessment. I think 2 is underrated.
2
Like
is
I think people
amazing.
sort of it's really good. And
Timothy
I actually
Oliphant is
also
in it.
enjoyed
Sorry.
sorry?
Timothy Oliphant is in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like that and yeah.
But we get Dermot Mulroney in this one.
We
So.
Oh my God.
What a
This might-
joy.
What a joy. He's having the best time in this film.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
you cannot tell me that this was not his favorite character he's ever played.
To me, it was a callback of Scott Foley in Scream 3, which is also amazing.
I agree with you completely. I was thinking of that, and the sort of like just the pure joy that these two men get in playing bad guys. Like, not to spoil Scream 3 for everyone, but anyway.
Spoiled Scream 6.
It's Scott Foley.
Oh, well, I mean, I think we typically spoil most of the films we talk about.
That's
like that's
fair.
just kind of
Yeah, we do.
You know what? We're not going to keep it secret. Anyway, sorry, AG, I cut you off before.
Well,
I'm so
I
sorry.
was just going to say, I think you two should rewrite the sort of current, like, what is out there about the Scream franchise, because it's like the stuff that I read online was like, oh, yeah, the franchise really hit a low point in Scream 2 and 3. And then
Those people are wrong.
Yeah, they're wrong. They are wrong. I think, like, I'm willing to say that, like, maybe, like, 4 was just a small step below the others.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think the rest are all essentially perfect.
Yep. Agree.
Anyway.
Really? Okay.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Scream 4 is like fine. Scream 4 is really enjoyable.
4's fine.
It's enjoyable. It's not bad, but it's also not as good
no.
as the other ones.
Yeah. But originally what I was going to say is that I was glad that you came on to sort of fully explain Scream 5, as it was the first movie in the franchise that I saw, and I was a little bit taken aback by it. But like hearing you talk through it, I kind of grew to appreciate all the finer nuances of the movie.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you know all of them in order to appreciate them, because Scream is not a movie that's like in a sort of, what's the word I want? Like, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, like each one. Like, they are playing on the earlier ones. They're hyper aware. Like, it's super meta theatrical. So you do not get all of the nuance that makes it so brilliant and perfect if you haven't seen the other ones.
I agree. And I think, like, actually the monologue that Mindy has in here talking about it's now a franchise, in the Scream franchise, they have so much more respect for the concepts of a franchise than, except for, like, I think Fast and Furious has a lot of respect for concepts of a franchise. And I would say that, like, they play more with time. Scream hasn't yet, but, like, each of the films in Scream is in conversation with each other in a way that, like, actually is often sort of the case of Fast and Furious.
But it hasn't gone in. They haven't gone into outer space yet.
Well, that's kind of the great thing about Scream. They don't need to, because like all of their they literally are a franchise about family.
That's
in
true.
a way that Fast and Furious only aims to be.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yep.
I didn't know that I was going to be working through my thesis about Scream and Fast and Furious, but this is...
It always comes back to the Fast and the Furious. At some point in this podcast, it makes its way back there.
It does every time. I'm sorry. I blame AG. She's the one who got me hooked. Anyway, let's read the bio of our wonderful guest. Liv Albert is the host, creator, writer, editor, and producer of Let's Talk About Myths, baby. She is the author of the best-selling book Greek Mythology, The Gods, Goddesses, and Heroes Handbook, and Nectar of the Gods, a book of 75 Greek mythology-themed cocktails. Most importantly, to us, she is an expert on the Scream franchise, and she last joined us this past January to talk about Scream 5.
Truly, I love
Yay,
Scream
welcome.
so much. Thank you for having me. I will talk about these movies at any time.
I love it.
I mean, I also should say,
it so much.
I watched this. I was in Greece for the past month, and I haven't been home that long. And I watched this right before I left, and I just did a little quick reminder of everything, so it's not completely fresh in my head. But I did watch it incredibly recently because it's Scream, and thus I have to watch it all the time.
I have faith in you. I think this is gonna go well.
I love it.
AG,
enough.
do you want to read some of the background? I don't know if you want to read the whole background, but do you want to read some of the background?
Sure. Scream 6 is a 2023 American slasher film directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, and written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. It is a sequel to Scream in 2022 and the sixth installment in the Scream series. The film stars Melissa Barrera, Jenny Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, Hayden Panettiere, and Courtney Cox, all reprising their roles from previous installments. Notably, Neve Campbell did not reprise her role as Sidney Prescott due to a pay dispute, making this the first Scream film not to feature her. The film received generally positive reviews from critics and grossed over $169 million worldwide, becoming the first installment in the franchise to earn over $100 million at the domestic U.S. box office since Scream 2, and the highest grossing Scream film in the United States and Canada, unadjusted for inflation. It also won Best Movie at the 2023 MTV Awards. Amazing.
Honestly, that's incredible, especially since it debuted during an ongoing pandemic.
True.
That's incredible box office.
Yeah.
Lisa, do you want to read the synopsis?
Sure. This time, the Woodsboro crew, it has a kind of exhausted weariness to it, doesn't it? All right, here we go
the LA
again.
Times did this to us. This isn't us saying it.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
fine.
yeah. This time, the Woodsboro crew of most recent Ghostface survivors are in New York City. One could say it's Ghostface Takes Manhattan. Tara is attending fictional Blackmore University, trying to live a normal life with her overprotective big sis Sam in tow. As usual, the film opens with a call from Ghostface, who would like to play a game, this time elevating the horror nerd trivia to the level of the Ivory Tower with references to a 20th century slasher film studies class taught at Blackmore. From the beginning, it's a Ghostface inception, the copycats folding into themselves, unclear who is targeting whom and why. That's from the LA Times.
I thought that was good.
I do love the idea of the pairing up of Ghostface and Inception. That also really pleases me as a reference point in conversation with each other. Liv, how did you feel about them switching up the signature way that we start all of this, the Scream films?
Yeah, it was very jarring, I would say, because every Scream film does and should open with what they always do, which is that they always have major cameos of big actors at the time getting the phone calls and dying, or in Scream 4 there's all these different levels of it. There's a bunch of different people that this happens to, and it's a whole thing. But then, like, at first I was really distraught. I was a little bit concerned. It was a red flag, I will say, because of course this is the very first one that doesn't take place in Woodsboro, and like that was already a concern. I take this very seriously, but then in the end, I was quite happy with it because I think that they handled it like in a way that made it really intentional, that they were just kind of like stepping back and making a really like on purpose change to the whole setup. And that kind of ties right into it being in New York in a way that ultimately I found satisfying.
Yeah.
You had a bit of a challenge there in your tone there.
I went through a lot of things watching. Yeah. And my sister and I watched it together because we are ridiculous. And the two of us just watch Scream constantly. And so we were like pausing midway through and like discussing it with the other one and like determining how we felt about it and like whether this was okay and, just what were they doing exactly. And then by the time it was over, I think we both decided that no, it was a good call. That it was an intentional enough change that it mirrored the change to New York and thus was acceptable to us. Very specifically as Scream connoisseurs.
I love the idea of sisters watching how now sisters are the new final girls. Can you talk a little bit about, do you guys like the idea like that sisters are now sort of like taking over this franchise?
It's funny, I haven't thought about it in that way at all. I do like the new people. I do like that there's two. It's kind of nice with like a little bit less pressure. Poor Sydney had a lot of pressure on her as the one it was always happening to. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy them. Definitely. I mean, Jenna Ortega's lovely. And I like her even more now after, because of course the first one came out before Wednesday. And then I think everyone kind of fell in love with her in Wednesday. And then this one came out afterwards. So it was kind of nice to have that. But yeah, I haven't thought about it in that way. But now that you say it, given that it is like legally required for my sister and I to watch the entire series together at least once a year, like I do think it's quite fitting.
But so are you the older sister or younger sister?
Yes, I'm older, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you're the Sam.
Yeah, I'm the trouble. Yeah. I'm the troublesome one for sure. I'm the one who's going to be accused of all the murders, apparently.
Well, I really love Jenna Ortega as well. I watch You, and I really adored her in You, and then I watched this, and then I watched Wednesday. I think is like the order of what I've sort of consumed of hers, or Scream 5, and then this, and I was really glad that she had more to do in this film. Like I feel like last film she kind of gets sidelined a little bit, and which is fine. And they put this is much more of like a much more fairly two leads and like two women leads, present and really like fighting with each other, but also for each other. And I very much enjoyed that. I like the sister dynamic. I also have a sister. And so there's aspects to their dynamic that I find that resonate like very well. Like that you like obviously like love each other so much, but you also just want the other person to leave you alone sometimes. And stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like the way that they played with the opening, I was also concerned a little bit at first, but then it really got me. Because I think that the people making these movies really have a lot of respect for the Scream franchise. It's not like they brought people in who don't know anything. Like these filmmakers and writers know their stuff and they respect it, and they want to like mess it around a little bit and put their own stamp on it. And you got to know and love the source material, I think, to really do it effectively and build on it. And that's what comes through for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, like, because of how long Scream has been going on, like, I think the likelihood is that these are people who grew up on it, like people like me who have been watching it since I was like, I mean, probably just old enough not to get scared out of my mind. and then like have been completely obsessed with them since then. Like I think Scream 3 was the first one I watched pretty close after it had come out, because I think I was like 13 when it came out versus the other ones. But like, yeah, so I mean, you think that the writers are probably, like, in their mid to late 30s, and they've grown up watching these and love them. And so, they have this kind of reverence, and it shows, because I think, I mean, that's sort of going to be the line for me when I'm officially, like if it's really clear they have no idea what's going on when, in the next ones or whatever, or they're clearly not, aware of what makes Scream special compared to other slashers. And I think that's just, it shows that this one, they got it.
So are these latest two movies a lot more like stabby than the first?
I think you asked that last time.
Yeah. Probably.
I think the answer is no. Like maybe a little bit, but I would say only in the way that that like technology has made it easier to make things stabbier, but not like excessively.
I thought we spent more time seeing I thought we spent more time like where in the past they might cut away after certain stabs. This time we spent more time in the stabs, if that makes sense. And the sound effects were more ripping and tearing and sort of blood flowish. But I also thought that they ended up getting, like, in the past we've had some very creative / accidental, like Ghostface always will want to do the stabs, but will take advantage of whatever else is around. If, for example, you might remember, getting caught up in the garage door opener, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's classic.
Classic, super classic. So I appreciated that this one still continues to mix, like it's going to up the gore a tiny bit, I think personally, but also still have some of those very bizarre and like weird kind of moments. Like the ladder sequence was, I thought, great. Mm-hmm. I loved the ladder sequence.
So, question, did they have any consultants on how many stab wounds you could survive? Because there were certain points where I was like, okay, you get a knife in the mouth.
No, they're never believable.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, everyone should have died 100 times in every movie.
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
And so some people die right away. Courtney Cox's boyfriend seems to die quickly. Mm-hmm. But then everyone else seems to survive 100 stab wounds. Like I'm sure there was no medical consultant on this.
No.
I can't imagine that there would be much use for a medical consultant on this. I gotta say, like I don't think they're going
why
for
bother
realism at all.
if no one's going to care about it?
Just the number of times that Ghostface, and I know that there's like a plurality of Ghostfaces here, but the number of times they must get almost concussed from like all the different giant blocks of wood and bricks to the head.
Right?
Never mind the stabs.
Ghostface also is one that should have died a ton of times in all the movies. Like, 'cause so often you see them and they're like, what should be, if not a mortal wound, it should be like really close. And then, the person turns away and then they turn back and they're gone. And you're like, well, I mean, even if you didn't die, like, how'd you get up that quick? But that's just part of the magic.
Well,
I'm definitely not here for realism.
Exactly.
No, I just feel a certain I have a certain understanding about stab wounds killing you. That's all I'm saying. And
oh, for sure.
And
Valid.
sometimes that works. And sometimes it doesn't.
There's so many parallels with the Fast and Furious franchise coming up here.
Like so many people should be dead and
Fast and Furious, but they're not. Like they're
just not.
I don't believe the whole crew. Sorry to take a sidebar here, but like the whole crew apparently crashed into. We're in a plane crash into a mountaintop at the end of the last episode. But
and they all live.
I fully expect to see them.
Yeah.
In Fast and Furious 11.
It's kind of felt
just like those
Grey's Anatomy vibes.
Yeah. Or soap operas. Like, you die, but no one ever really dies. They can always be brought back. And they'll figure out a way. They'll, like, reverse engineer it to make sure it can happen.
Yeah,
They're resilient.
That's just movie making in 2023.
Yep. Honestly, I mean, and for these franchises, I'm fine with it. Like, I just, like, and I will say, though, I did think about, oh my God, Mindy's twin brother.
Chad.
Who, sorry, Chad? Yes, thank you, Chad. That's right. His literal name is Chad.
Yeah.
There were some very funny lines in this, by the way. Anyway, but Mindy's brother, like, when the two ghost faces are stabbing at him, it really does look as if they're just sort of like trying to see if he's done
or something. Or like,
yeah, it looks very. It doesn't look very like. This sounds weird, but it doesn't look extremely penetrative.
Oh.
It looks more like from a is the meatloaf done or whatever. I don't know how people cook meatloaf. I'm sorry, I don't know. Like a roast beef? Is that what happens?
See if it's cooked on the inside, you mean?
You stab it at 50 times for sure. That's how you do it.
50 times, right?
Yeah.
That's how you keep it moist.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I don't cook or stab people. I'm just not like good at either, I guess, as far as I know. But like, but I'm so ridiculously attached to the core four and to Courtney Cox. And I'm actually like so thrilled that Kirby's back. And I'm always going to root for Hayden. I just am. I've been, she was a child on Guiding Light. And not that I watched that show, but because I read all the soap opera weeklies, and she's paid so many dues. She has put up with a lot. And I just want good things for her. And it was nice to see her in this. I thought she did a good job. And she had like the steeliness that you would imagine Kirby has at this point in her life.
A question I have to the Scream aficionados here. So when you take on the persona of Ghostface, when this mantle is passed to you, do you also have to agree to a sense of drama that is excessive? Like that whole subway scene was ridiculously long. Ridiculously. Like, and so you just can't walk up. You just can't walk up and stab. You've got to really taunt. Like you're a killer whale with a seal or something. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I think it comes naturally, though. I don't think it's like conscious. It's like inherently, in order for someone to want to take up the ghost face mantle, they have to also simultaneously just like have that within them. They just like are hand in hand.
Well, because they're obsessed with film. They have a sense of drama, like that inherent, like they are film buffs, film aficionados primarily, usually also somehow avenging a family member. So, and serial killers are, often psychopaths. So
yeah,
combination is just right there. It's so rich.
Yes. Yeah.
So that reminds me, thank you, one of the main things that makes this one so great. Like all of the Scream movies, coincidentally. But that, like, it is so intentionally mirroring Scream 2 because, like you said, it's about the family member, right? Which, like, I just remember learning that bit where it's like, oh, it's all of Richie's family. I was like, oh my God, like, it's just exactly like Billy Loomis's mom in Scream 2. And so and it's even in a theater again. We don't get the Greek myth references, tragically. But it's still got that, like, entire thing, and it was just another good reminder that, like, yes, these writers are super here for the level of self-awareness and just like everything being so deeply meta-theatrical that is what is so inherent in Scream. So it's like, Scream 5 was the reboot, that's why they just called it Scream again, and then this one is Scream 2 but again. And I love that they're doing that. Like they recognize that, like, while some franchises like Fast and Furious can just like keep going and going and going, theirs is not one they need to like rehash the same stuff because that's just like kind of the point of it all anyway.
And what I love so much is that, like, if it continues to replicate the pattern that is setting out, that means that Scream 7 will inevitably sort of end up being the making of the first Stab films, right? Like, And so it'll be like a requel of stab films. Like they're just it's a nesting doll of wonder and knives.
I mean, that's like
always knives.
Always knives.
Yeah.
But that is what's so great about Scream 3, and what also simultaneously makes it like one of the most ridiculous of the Scream movies is that like not only is it, you know, being hyper aware of itself, but it also is a movie that has the characters and then the actors playing the characters and them having to interact with their characters. And it's so good. Yeah. I mean, if they do something like that again, maybe it's like a YouTube channel or something instead, because, you know, they've got to make it like a little bit different. I mean, YouTube is maybe like out of touch now. That was another, just to pull back to when you were talking about how it's great that Kirby is back, because I agree entirely. But I had this just wild moment with my sister when we were watching it. She didn't know that Kirby was coming back until she appeared, and she was so excited. And then, you know, we get this whole introduction that Kirby's an FBI agent, and my sister looks at me and she's like, how is it possible? Like, not that much time has passed. How could she already be an FBI agent? And I was like, I know, Jess, that you're thinking this because we watched Scream 4 in the theaters when we were like in university and thus like full adults, whereas all the other ones we were children. But I was like, it has been over 10 years. Like, I'm sorry to tell you, it has been more than a decade. It is, while it feels impossible, it is fully realistic that she is now an FBI agent.
Well, and that's like, I love it when Gail calls her a zygote, because I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. Like, but also, like, I mean, Hayden, just because Hayden has literally been around, like, she's been acting since she was like 3 years old. Like, I feel like I've watched her grow up in so many ways, and like all the way up to like watching her on Nashville. Oh, I didn't last after the first couple of seasons, but still. And just seeing her in this scenario as like, it's the oldest I've ever seen her, obviously, as an actor, because that's,
again, coincidentally,
that's how time works. She and I are both at our oldest in this moment. I really felt it when Gail got to tell her that. And yeah, I was even just, you know, I'm never really going to forgive them for killing Dewey, but
no.
Like the fact that this movie had me thinking like maybe Gail and Kirby have flipped their lids and that they are ghost faces now. Like this movie did well in terms of like a little game of guess who.
Did you really worry for even a second that it was Gail?
I thought maybe she, like Dewey, like the end of Dewey had like really like just decimated her, because she's just so kind of, he was the one point of vulnerability that she had.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe Gail's one of the killers. I knew that there was more than one.
There's always.
But I didn't know how many.
There's always more than one. Yeah. My sister and I had this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I liked how part of it was the action was set in a Scream museum that they discovered.
That was elaborate.
Yeah.
Like to a degree that I don't know. It's like finding, it's the equivalent to usually to finding that board inside someone's home with all the red yarn that's connecting all the stories to it, but it was all that on steroids.
Yeah. It made me wonder if the next step for this franchise is to have you know how Harry Potter has like a Harry Potter experience thing. Like that's next.
The Scream experience.
The Scream experience.
You know, I absolutely thought that was going to happen. Actually, I feel like it could happen, because I thought that I feel like they could just replicate that room, and people could go into it and be scared, and it would be great.
And one of the mannequins would come to life, of course.
For sure.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm shocked that they haven't done it in association with Halloween, because like they already do Fright Nights on Halloween all like everywhere. Like Scream should totally, their franchise should franchise Scream Experience Halloween nights.
The thing about Scream, and just to be the one to continually I don't even know what I'm doing with my obsession, but it's never tied itself to Halloween. Like most
true.
horror movies. Yeah,
that's true.
That's never been its thing. And I haven't decided whether that's like a pro or a con in my head. But it is like, it's really always stood out to me that's never been like the point.
But weren't they at Halloween in this one?
This one is the first one that's tied itself to Halloween.
Yeah.
But I mean, it still came out in March. Like, I mean, more like, I guess I more mean like real life Halloween.
Yeah. I see, yes.
Yeah, but you're right. This is the first one that does actually have them in Halloween. So it is still taking a different step forward. But yeah, it still came out in March when, I mean, I don't remember when the last one came out, but yeah, it was just surprising to me that it came out. I was also in New York at the time, which was not intentional, obviously, but it might as well have been, because it was so fun being on the subways and just having every single thing be like a Scream poster. And I was just like, I was so excited. Like, I don't fangirl over, honestly, anything. But I was like, oh my God, Scream's everywhere. And it like takes place in New York. And here I am and Ghostface is all over. It's so exciting. Just shows where I'm at.
Also, what's kind of interesting about the franchise too, and like we were just discussing time and how the years pass, but there's something kind of what's the right word I'm looking, like a fossil, like a slasher film is kind of a fossil because they're so stamped from the late 70s, early 80s, and they always still, like, the girl still has the same look with the jeans and the t-shirt, like that look has lasted for 40 years for slasher films. And also when Ghostface breaks into the therapist's office, and it was so old school to go rifling through the drawer to find a file folder.
Yeah.
And I thought there's something sort of about these movies that, yes, time moves on, but they feel very 80s to me.
Well, I mean, they've tied themselves to phone calls in a way that will, like, always kind of mean, I mean, one, I will also say, like, the first Scream came out in 96, so in my head, they're just, like, so deeply 90s that, like, I know slashers are so 80s, but, like, Scream is just so 90s. But yeah, they've tied themselves to telephones, and so they kind of always have to have this sort of callback. So I do like that they went with the paper files, because I think that kind of, it just sort of, like, it lives in this world where, like, yes, cell phones and social media are just as they are now, but it's not gonna, it's still gonna have to rely on, like, voice calls, and so they might as well play with, things like paper files, and just there's less on the computer because it's all about, you gotta have the Ghostface voice in your ear. You can't do text messages. It's not the same.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's what makes it so funny. Yeah.
And I also think that, like, that's part of what they designed the first Scream to sort of be about, the slasher films of 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. So that's always at the heart of everything that is happening, because they keep referencing themselves, So it's just like right in there in the fabric of the entire franchise. Is going to be absolutely this sort of, like, both, and the other thing that they do really well, which I appreciate, this idea that we have that, like, if you are critiquing something you love, that it has to be positive. Like, that's so absurd. Like, critiquing something you love means, like, looking at all of it. And, like, and I think that that's what the Scream, like, that was the heart of the original Scream films, is to, like, look at tropes, identify stereotypes, call out these things that are, sort of like, it's just sort of like these easy things that films have relied on, and talk about it, and also still love it. Like, they know how to critique things and still love them, and lovingly critique things. And I feel like that is also present throughout the entire franchise, which is another reason maybe that I love it.
Also, in this conversation, because I think that, like, not intentionally, but that's certainly the only way I know how to talk about Scream, is that, like, I'll critique it to an extent. And so maybe it's an ironic thing for me to say that, to agree with you, because I will still, like, I will never say, like, a truly bad thing about it, but I will, like, point out flaws. I think I have said at least a couple of things. It's just that there's not many flaws, and that's, it's difficult.
And that's fair. And then, like, that's fair. And I also, like, I think that, like, but I think, like, the heartbeat of the Scream franchise is lovingly critiquing and also still adoring those slasher films. And, like, that carries it through, and it gives us, like, a lot of chances to do the same for it,
Yeah.
Do we feel, though, I have to ask this question, since we're on the critical phase, do you feel that this idea of having to keep this four together kind of dilutes the slasherness of it?
It's only been 2 movies. They're not
I know.
going to again. Yeah. Because it's really similar to, it's honestly like almost identical to the first 2. I mean, it's difficult, like, you know, the people who live and who don't live. Because, of course, the twins serve, they don't both serve as, I always forget his character's name because I want to call him Jamie Kennedy after I realize that scene where him screaming at Jamie Lee Curtis is so perfect. But
Jamie Kennedy's character.
Yeah. He serves this role of connecting everything to horror movies and like making all of these points about the series. And so they kind of serve as both serving as him because they are his nieces and nephew.
Randy.
Randy, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then because like now we've got the 2 sisters, they're just kind of standing in as Neve Campbell, as Sidney Prescott. So like while there are 4, they're still technically mirroring the first 2.
Okay.
And then in 2, or in 3 rather, or 2, at the end of 2, anyway, Randy dies. So there's definitely still a chance to lose 1 or 2 of them in the next movie. But at this point, they are still kind of mirroring the Screams as they currently existed. So I do think Randy dies at the end of it. So maybe they're like mixing things up. Maybe one of them will die in the 3rd one. Because the 3rd one is where they introduce Randy's sister as if she's existed all the time. But really, it's like hilariously weird just to make sure that they have a video of Randy. Anyway, I know I brought that up in the last episode, but it was just such a good moment.
But at least she's played by Dawn Wiener. That's good.
I mean, she's wonderful. I forget what I know her from so well, but like I love that she's in it again.
It might be. I'm calling her Dawn Wiener, but that's like not really fair to Heather Matarazzo. Matarazzo?
Yes.
Matarazzo? Anyway,
But so,
welcome to the dollhouse.
how did we feel about Sidney Prescott not being in this movie?
It's a travesty, but I respect why she did it, and she knows her worth, and that's great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's almost like we were discussing the Samantha-ness less of Sex and the City, and it's almost as if you shouldn't be allowed to do it unless you're going to pay people properly and bring them into the fold.
Yeah, I was pleased that Neve Campbell walked away. I was really proud of her, actually, and I know that they're going to need her back at some point, and I hope she demands a sweet pot of cash.
But will she? Because if this one did so well, and they're probably saying, "Well, we don't need her."
I mean, no. I actually think it was fine without her in this one. Like, I love Neve Campbell, and I think she does great work, and I really loved her in Scream 5. But like, I think it's okay to let her take a seat for a little bit, just in terms of just Sydneyness, you know, like she deserves to not be stabbed.
Yeah.
For once.
Yeah.
For once.
Yeah. But I agree. I think they will need to bring her back. And given this one did so well, like I would take it more as her having a good reason to ask them for the money because they're going to get an even bigger budget on the next one. And hopefully that means they'll pay her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too.
But so where do you think they're going to go with Scream 7 if and when it happens?
Oh, it will happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see what you mentioned, Andrea, like the nature of the Scream 3 of it all, because Scream 3 is like I just hope that the writers appreciate Scream 3 for what it is, because a lot of people don't like it because it is deeply weird. It is like the weird anomaly one, but it's that in such a fun way. Like, and I think we talked about it last time, but the wildest thing to me about it, and this is not related to like what they will come up with for the next one, but like it was so hyper aware in this fascinating way of like, it basically told the story of Harvey Weinstein, but it was produced by Harvey Weinstein. And that blows my whole mind. Anyway, I just think that needs to be always said. But I really hope that they will play with what happened in Scream 3, because having it all take place on the movie set of a stab movie with all the actors playing the people in it is just like, it was just like a whole other level in the most entertaining and weird sort of ways. And maybe Courtney Cox will get her baby bangs back, and that will be something else too.
No, oh my God, they'll end up casting like Cara Delevingne or something to play Gale Weathers, and she'll have baby bangs.
Yeah, that would, I mean, she could do it. That just reminded me though, I realized I was obsessively reading the IMDb trivia when I think for Scream 3 specifically, because my sister and I had a very similar conversation about Scream 3 when we watched this one. And I'm pretty sure I read that those were clip-ons, which was like amazing to me because they are so weird. They do not suit her at all. And I had always really clocked that they must have filmed it in an amount of time when they grew out before Friends started filming again, because they're not in Friends. But I love it even more that they were like a full-blown character choice clip-on so that they weren't in Friends. I think that they are a character in and of themselves in Scream 3 is kind of my ultimate point.
I completely agree with you on that one.
Thank you.
For sure.
Also, this is just a minor point, but Gail's apartment was pretty nice.
It
that
really
book
was.
must have sold, hey?
Gail has
Jeez.
made so much money off of
Wow.
The suffering of others and herself. And
Weirdly,
and
it made me think of Jennifer Aniston's apartment in the morning show.
I've never watched the morning show yet. It's a pretty nice pad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciated the whole sort of confrontation between the sisters and Gail initially, where Tara clocks Gail, and then when they have this sort of like makeup either later that day or the next day, I can't remember exactly what it is, and she says sorry, and Gail's like, yeah, you're not really sorry. And like Tara's like, no, I'm not.
No, I'm
and then
not,
they
yeah.
both just smile at each other. Like, these are absolutely, like, they are bonded in their, like, you know, the stabbings and the serial killerness, but they also just get each other. And I feel like we get so much more of Tara's character this time. And I think that they laid up a little bit on the Sam part. I know we have to wrap up soon, but we didn't even talk about Sam seeing Billy Loomis again. And I really loved how, like, they're toying with it, and they keep trying to toy with the idea that, like, Sam just has, like, serial killer in her because it's in the DNA, which I guess, you know, from the whole family on that side. But I also really appreciated how, like, she just drops the mask at the end. Like, I thought that was a really wonderful, I know maybe it was a little too pat an ending, but I really loved it.
Yeah, I think they're doing a really good job with her because they are playing up the Billy, but then every time they're still making it really clear that she is not beholden to that. Like, she might have a little something in her and we're going to see it, but she's going to be able to overcome it because she wants to, you know, like she's not forced to be like him, even if she has those little bits inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh boy. I could talk about this franchise forever.
Clearly, so could I. Like, just truly. I do want to say real quick, but that the dynamic between Sam and Gail is very reminiscent of Gail and Sydney, because in the first two, they do not like each other, but they have, like, form an alliance, but out of necessity. And I think that they're, again, it's just like, you know, it's a cycle, and that's what makes Scream so wonderful, and they're just doing it again with those two.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also really liked that they acknowledged that Kirby and Sam went to high school together. Because that's an easy thing to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Did they? I forgot about that.
Case in point.
Yeah.
So
Sam feels younger. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's such a smart show. It's so smart.
It is.
Anyway.
yeah, I totally appreciate that now listening to this conversation. Like, even more than I did for the first one. Like, it's been actually
all six.
very like altered my perception of the entire franchise. But so I don't know if we need to really go over this, but do we think this movie pops?
Yes.
I will say it pops for Scream fans. Yes. I mean, I don't imagine that anyone's just randomly, what do you guys want to watch tonight? You know?
Start at Scream 6.
Yeah, start at Scream 6. Like, that's not going to be happening. So for fans of this franchise, it's a big pop. Yeah.
I mean, it's perfect, but I also will say, in contrast to that, I do think that there are probably a lot of young people who are introducing themselves to Scream via 5 and 6 because they are treating it as like a kind of new franchise, and I love that. I think that 5 and 6 could be separate if they want, like I do think 6 is like has a whole extra piece because 5 introduces everything. But I do think that is something nice that is like pulling in probably a generation of people who were not remotely alive even up till Scream 4, hopefully they're, not that young. But, like I think it is at least pulling in a lot of young people in a way that I think I just need everybody to love Scream. So I'm holding on to that idea.
I mean, I think it's the same principle as like everyone on TikTok who like discovers like some kind of 80s song and then is like, oh wait, it's from the 80s, it's not from 2023, and then they go back and they like find
Fleetwood Mac
a love for some Fleetwood Mac, like
yeah. Well, speaking as a watcher of this franchise for like 6 months now or 8 months, I think it pops. I started at 5 and I think it pops. I think that like you listen to this podcast and you'll just like, it's a very good companion to sort of explain the nuances of this movie to you and you can appreciate it more. But I definitely give it a pop.
We love to leave our episodes on something we also recommend. Would you like to go first? Or is that too much pressure?
No, well, you gave me a great idea earlier. For one, thank you for having me. Scream is my life source. So clearly, I think you, based on the speed at which I think I answered your email I think it was pretty clear how keen I was to come back and talk about Scream. But yes, I will recommend just shameless self-promotion and say that my book, Nectar of the Gods, is really silly and dorky cocktails. Or if you just want to learn about like introduction to Greek mythology, my other book, which is literally just called Greek Mythology, is also good. But also have a podcast you can listen to, which is still about Greek mythology, but does have 2 or 3 episodes named for moments and or lines in Scream. Because I'm me.
Oh, yay! Hilarious.
Nice.
That's amazing. Great. People get to go source those, like find them if they haven't listened to them already. I love that. E.G., what about you? What are you recommending?
Well, so I went to a Canadians baseball game yesterday because it was dog day at Nat Bailey Stadium. And I took my dog. And I just wanted to recommend that everybody go see a baseball game at Nat Bailey. It's so charming and relaxing. Like it's not relaxing, I guess. That's not the right word. But it's like it's just a nice way to spend an evening. And it's just got... The New York Times Magazine recently wrote an article about how it's like the ideal way to see a baseball game because it's like a small scale. So you could see everything happening. And, like there's people change the score by hand, like on the board. And there's like, local teens working there as their summer job. Like it's just a fun atmosphere. And if you haven't been to a baseball game there in a while, I highly recommend it. It's super fun.
Cool. Thank you. Lisa, what about you? What are you recommending?
Yeah, so I just finished a novel. I don't know if anyone knows she's Canadian but lives in England, Rachel Cusk. She wrote this really terrific novel I read a couple of years ago called Outline. And now I just read one of her other novels called Transit, and it was really fantastic as well. Just these cleverly written little insights into people's personalities and little stories about them. I can't recommend it enough. Transit by Rachel Cusk.
Cool. I'm excited to check it out. I'm recommending a song, and it's a cover of Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down by Sultans of String featuring Tara Salah Moneka and Ahmed Moneka. They are a brother and sister duo who... both are exiled here from Iraq, and they did this cover with Sultans of String, and it's so good. It's haunting. I love it so much. I also did not realize that Sonny Bono wrote Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down.
Wow.
I had originally thought that it was Nancy Sinatra, but no, hers is just a cover. Sunny wrote it for Cher, and Cher put it on her record, and then Nancy did her cover, and then obviously Kill Bill really, brought it back in a big way. And this version with Tara and Ahmed is gorgeous. So gorgeous. And you can find it on YouTube or Spotify.
Fantastic. I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, it sounds great.
It felt like a good companion song to Scream 6 as well. Because there was some gunplay in here. Liv, do you want people to come find you online or no?
I mean, sure. I'm incredibly findable at this point. My various social media tend to be Myths Baby. But you can also just Google me. Yeah.
Perfect.
And I have lots of
We'll
things.
link to you in the show notes too.
Yeah, we'll
Great.
put in a link.
Yeah. Pretty easy. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. And you could rate and review us 5 stars.
5 stars. And thanks to Andrea Gin, as always, our co-host here and producer of this amazing podcast. And thank you all. Well, so if we're going to be allowing ourselves just to talk about how great everything else is, why not us?
You're right, we should. Liv, thank you so much for
Thank
joining us.
you.
It was so
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Bye.
Thanks everyone
Bye.
for listening. Bye.